Good evening, family. I greet you all as family because those are our teachings, that we're all here with one purpose, and that's to love each other, to accept each other's faults, to accept each other's celebrations. I'm here as a Dakota woman, as a Cree woman, and I recognize my patriarch and my matriarchs. I recognize my children, and I recognize all those who have made and brought us to where we are today. Velma Buffalo, my mother, my matriarch. Rose Flying Buffalo, my grandmother, who taught me many things that I'm going to share with you a bit of. I know 7 minutes is just a little bit time, but I recognize and I honor them, and you'll see why. My sister Candace, my sister Rhonda, my daughter Santi Bria Harris, and my niece Stephanie, and all the women that are in my life. You've seen in the biography, I guess, that I have become achieved what some might deem as success by becoming the first woman with the Federation of Saskatchewan Indigenous Nations. And and I get questions. How did you become that? How did that happen? And you must have known this person or that person. And I'm going to share with you where I attribute those successes to, and where I think that, and I believe that we need to go in going forward. When I talked to my daughter today, I told her, Bria, I'm so nervous. I said, what do you do when you get nervous? She said, I'd be nervous. And I thought, wow, in such a young girl, 16-year-old, what she was saying was speak your truths. I'd be nervous, I speak my truth. So as I stand here as your relative and friend, I'm here to speak my truths. And I'm here to, we know that the Walrus is neither left nor right wing, and that sometimes some of the topics will be uncomfortable. And so it's not my place here to create or to hurt anybody, but it is my place to speak those truths. As First Nations people here in Canada and in the West, in Saskatchewan, we have 74 First Nations, and that means 74 reserves, or reservations, as some may know them as. And we hear in the news of deplorable housing, suicides, alcoholism, and everything that goes on in those communities, in our First Nations, respectfully, in our homes. And that's our reality. Now, did we decide to sit in these communities? Did we decide to sit there and be placed in the north in swampy areas or different places in Saskatchewan? No, we didn't. We were placed there. And we were placed there by our family members here in Canada who thought that we ought to be on reserves. Now, as we're moving forward, and I don't come here to point fingers, I don't come here to be the victim, but rather than to be that of resilience, collective resilience, and understanding that we did that together. And so the win and the success will be creating healthy, happy family systems again, re-empowering our First Nations peoples, our First Nations family members to achieve what we may deem as success. Now, there's two different types of success, that of financial, which when somebody thinks of success, I think we go to financial stability, financial abilities. But what I want to introduce, and I welcome you to invite as well, is that success of family of healthy systems, healthy and happy children who aren't hungry, who aren't abused, who are living in safe communities. And I said I would introduce how I achieved, I guess, this responsibility. My matriarch, my grandmother, Rose Flying Buffalo, I'm her granddaughter. She took me out to the lands in her community. We didn't have very much, as is a lot of Canadians, but we had song, we had prayer. And she would take me to the land and she would show me on each plant had a different song. Each plant had a different prayer. As do our four-leggeds, our two-leggeds, our winged, and those in the water. That's the respect she showed to Mother Nature, to our mother who looks after us, to the waters. So we would take and use these plants and take them home. We'd boil them. Sometimes we'd put them over fire, and we create these medicines. They weren't mystical. They weren't something that from, outside. They were gifts that Mother Earth gave us. And people would come and see her from all over, from across the borders that we know in the United States. And I would sit there and I would help her, whether it's an hour, whether it's a few days. I was there to help look after these people that came. And that taught me a lot. It taught me gratitude, as we sang the songs of thankfulness for the prayers, for the plants and all that was provided for us to help to look after, protect, to nurture those sickly that came to us, whether it was mental illness or physical ailments. It taught me gratitude. It taught me also respect, that everybody is the same. Not just our two-legged, but our four-legged as well. Our plants, everything that surrounds us is the same. And we ought to treat each other with that respect. It also taught me that of humility, that anything can happen to any one of us at any time. And responsibility, that I have the responsibility to love your children in this room, throughout our earth, throughout Mother Earth, that you do, to love and protect and nurture mine. And so going forward now, and really understanding the residential schools and what happened with that. And maybe people just don't know. And I gotta hang on to that. Maybe people just don't know that there were people that came into our homes and took our children at no fault of our parents, at grandparents, and came with sometimes law authorities, because the mothers and fathers, we didn't want to let them go. And out the door they went. And the same goes through the 60s scoops that maybe you've heard on the news. That happened with them too, but they took them away and they weren't connected to the communities at all. And so success, we are the residential school survivors, the residential schools that are not just surviving but thriving, and continuing to have that forgiveness and understanding and not blaming each other but working together on what tomorrow can look like. And tomorrow is just too late as it is already, and what today ought to look like. And so, according to statistics, the missing and murdered Indigenous women, I ought not to be standing here as a leader. I ought not to be sharing these truths. And statistically, my 3 daughters are in harm's way. And what a fear that is in this place, in this beautiful country, full and thriving and full of opportunity. Though that's the reality, that fear that we live in. And so I implore everyone to understand that we're not from a place of victims. We're in a place of empowerment. We're in a place of not just looking to point fingers, looking for handouts. We're just looking for respect, and we're looking to give that respect. And one thing that I believe, and you've heard in the biography of becoming also the first First Nations woman for Habitat for Humanity Canada National Board, we should, I do believe that there should be a First Nations person on every business board that we have. We have lawyers, we have doctors, we have grandmothers with wisdom, grandfathers with wisdom, we have our cousins, we have so many people that are very well educated, not just formally, but also in First Nations family systems and ways of being and natural laws that we can offer and sit together. So it does make sense that on every board there should be a First Nations person, the First Peoples of this land, and growing together in success is seeing happy families who thrive rather than just survive. So this is how the West will be won, is including each other. You heard about the treaties on how we promised to respect, we promised to share, we promised to live in peaceful coexistence. And we just didn't promise that we would do that for now, back then, and we just didn't promise that to each other. We promised that in front of Creator, in front of God. There was a spiritual connection. So the time says I am done. There's so much more that we could speak about and share that we'll have the opportunity. So again, I be nervous. I speak my truths, and we are all family. Thank you all. Mitaki Asin, we are all family.